They told you that life is random, right? That things just happen because of luck, genetics, hard work, or timing. But here's the thing, they left out a major detail, and it wasn't by accident. Because if you knew how reality truly works, you wouldn't be so easily controlled. You wouldn't just follow the rules they set. You wouldn't buy what they sell, and you certainly wouldn't fear what they push. Buried beneath religion, hidden under layers of science, and glossed over in self-help books, there's a blueprint, a set of 7 laws. Not laws of men, but laws of nature, consciousness, and creation. These are ancient Hermetic principles that are undeniable. And here's the kicker. These aren't just feel-good affirmations. They're not empty motivational quotes. These are mechanical, real principles. They govern everything from how your mind shapes reality, to how energy reacts to your thoughts, to why certain patterns repeat in your life, and why things keep happening the way they do. You've already felt them even if you didn't know what they were. Now it's time to recognize and understand them. These 7 Hermetic powers aren't just abstract ideas. They're tools. You've been using them your entire life, though probably in reverse. It's time to wake up and start using them intentionally for yourself. You weren't taught just how powerful your mind really is. Instead, you were taught to memorize, obey, and survive. From the moment you understood language, you were handed a framework, a set of beliefs that told you what was possible and what wasn't, what was real and what was fantasy, what was worth striving for and what was dangerous to even think about. And you accepted it not because you were weak, but because you were young, impressionable, and open to learning. The Law of Mentalism. The first Hermetic principle says everything begins in the mind. Everything. Not just your beliefs or attitude, but reality itself. Your outer world is simply a projection of your inner state. This isn't just some metaphor, it's mechanical, it's real. Your relationships, your finances, your habits, your opportunities, everything is a reflection of the thoughts you repeat, the assumptions you hold, and the identity you unconsciously adopt. This is why some people break free from cycles, while others keep repeating them. It's why 2 people can be in the same room yet live in entirely different worlds. Because the real battlefield isn't out there, it's in your mind. And here's the part no one tells you. You're already using this law all the time. You're not just living life, you're projecting it. If your internal story is that life is hard, that people are untrustworthy, or that you're not worthy of success, then guess what? Your mind will filter everything to prove that belief true. And worse, it will create conditions to support it. Your perception becomes the lens. Your emotions fuel the charge, and your actions follow suit. You're the architect of your own limitations, often without realizing it. But here's the good news, the same mechanism that traps you can also set you free. If you've created your current reality through unconscious thought, then you can reshape it by taking conscious control. This isn't wishful thinking. This is Hermetic truth. The mind is the first layer of creation. Before energy moves, before form manifests, before cycles unfold, thought comes first. Thought is the seed. If you can master your mind, you've mastered the code of your life. But mental mastery doesn't come from pretending everything is fine or forcing positivity. It comes from awareness. It comes from observation. It comes from learning to watch your own thoughts like a hawk and ask, does this belief build me or does it bind me? Does this story expand me or does it trap me? Most people never question that inner monologue. They assume it's just their personality, just their voice. But it's not. That voice was shaped, programmed often by people who were broken themselves. The law of mentalism calls you to wake up from the noise and start fresh, not through force, but through choice. Choose your thoughts like you choose the foundation of your home, because that's exactly what they are. Some truths are too raw for YouTube, so if you want to dive deeper, sign up for Insights Academy through the link below. You'll also get a free copy of the Kybalion limited time only. When you change the way you think, the world doesn't just look different, it responds differently. Conversations shift, opportunities show up, resistance fades, but not because the universe has changed, it's because you did. You've aligned your mind with a different frequency, and life followed. You stop reacting and you start creating. And that's when the rules begin to bend. That's when you stop being a character in someone else's script and start writing your own. Mentalism isn't just the first law, it's the master key. The door is your mind. Now open it. If mentalism is the blueprint, then vibration is the current that runs through it. Every thought you think, every word you speak, every emotion you feel, it all generates a frequency. This isn't some poetic idea. This is physics. Both ancient Hermeticism and modern quantum theory agree on this one point: nothing rests. Everything moves. Even what seems solid, the chair you're sitting in, your body, the walls around you, everything is vibrating at a microscopic level. In your mind, it's not just processing information, it's a transmitter. It's a signal tower broadcasting your internal frequency into the world 24/7. When you walk into a room and you feel the energy shift, that's not your imagination. That's your nervous system picking up on vibrational cues. When someone's words sound polite, but something feels off, it's not the words. It's the frequency behind them. You've always known this, but no one ever taught you to trust it. The law of vibration asks you to stop ignoring that sense, to start mastering it. Because here's the truth. Your results in life don't come from effort alone. They come from your energetic state. That's why two people can do the same job, say the same things, even follow the same morning routine, and yet get wildly different results. The person with an aligned frequency, clear intention, focused emotion, and stable energy will always bend the world in ways that the grinder can't. Vibration is the invisible architecture behind your reality. Fear vibrates low, love vibrates high. Gratitude, clarity, and focus, these aren't just nice feelings. They're states of resonance. They pull people, experiences, and ideas toward you. But most people don't live from vibration. They live from reaction. They wake up, check their phones, absorb the chaos of the world before they've even anchored themselves, and then wonder why the day feels heavy. They scroll through bad news, enter a stress frequency, and carry that energy into their conversations, decisions, and outcomes. But vibration can be shifted deliberately. It starts with presence awareness, becoming conscious of your emotional tone, catching yourself when you spiral into doubt, fear, bitterness, or anxiety, not judging it, but choosing to rise above it. That doesn't mean faking joy. It means understanding that you can tune your state the same way you tune a radio. Focus is your dial. Emotion is your amplifier. Action is your confirmation. When all three align, you don't chase reality. Reality comes to you. This isn't magic. This is mechanics. The frequencies you dwell in determine what you're a match for. Scarcity minds attract lack. Victim energy attracts chaos. Empowered focus draws synchronicity. The law of vibration doesn't play favorites, it reflects. So the question is, what signal are you sending? Because the universe is always listening, and it doesn't speak English or Spanish or whatever language you grew up with. It speaks energy. To master vibration is to master momentum. Most people only change when they hit rock bottom, when the pain becomes louder than inertia. But vibration lets you shift before things collapse. It lets you elevate, not because you're desperate, but because you're deliberate. Once you start tuning into how you really feel beneath the noise, you begin to sense your own signal, and then you can shift it on purpose. Over time, this creates a baseline, a new default. Life stops feeling random. Patterns stabilize. People will say you're lucky or glowing or different, but they won't see the work underneath. The frequency you hold silently reshapes the field around you. Your thoughts create the blueprint, but it's your vibration that brings it to life. So if you want to shift your world, don't just think differently, feel differently. Tune in, tune up, and everything else will follow. The world doesn't happen to you, it happens through you. The third Hermetic law correspondence is the mirror principle. It tells you that everything you see outside of yourself is a reflection of something inside you. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally. The state of your mind, the emotions you feed, the beliefs you protect, they don't stay hidden. They shape your relationships, your health, your money, your chaos. Your reality is a feedback loop, and you're always broadcasting. Look around you. Look at the people you attract, the patterns you repeat, the situations that seem to follow you no matter where you go. That's not just bad luck or coincidence. It's correspondence. The external mirrors the internal. The micro reflects the macro. If you feel like the world is against you, you have to ask, what part of you is still fighting yourself? If your life feels stagnant, what part of your spirit have you silenced? The outside world is a canvas, and the paint is your state of being. But here's the part that's hardest to accept. It also means you're responsible for more than you think. Because if what's outside is the result of what's inside, then waiting for your environment to change before you change yourself is backwards. You can move cities, leave relationships, change jobs, start new routines, but if your internal blueprint stays the same, the external outcome will echo it. Different scenery, same cycle. This is why people find themselves dating the same person in a different body. Why they leave toxic workplaces only to attract the same dysfunction somewhere else. It's not about the external, it's about the unconscious internal script you haven't rewritten yet. The law of correspondence is a wake-up call, but it's also pure liberation. Because once you understand it, you stop trying to force change out there. You stop wasting energy begging people to treat you differently, hoping systems will save you, or blaming fate for your circumstances. You go within. You identify the pattern at the source. You see where you're operating from wounds, from fear, from survival, and you shift that. Then without trying things around, you start to reorganize. The catch, it takes radical honesty. You can't lie to yourself and master this law. You have to look in the mirror without flinching. You have to stop calling your coping mechanisms personality traits. You have to admit where you've been living on autopilot, reacting from old programming, replaying childhood scripts like they still serve you. Because if your outer world is chaos, chances are your inner world has been neglected. And the truth is, there is no escape from self. Wherever you go, there you are. So you might as well make it a home you can trust. When you shift your internal world, your beliefs, your values, your expectations, the outer world has no choice but to respond. Because the law of correspondence doesn't discriminate. It just reflects. It reflects your doubts, your confidence, your fear, your forgiveness, your shame, your self-worth. So what would happen if you cleaned the mirror? If you aligned your inner world with clarity, integrity, and purpose? You wouldn't need to chase healing. It would ripple outward. You wouldn't have to beg people to respect you. Your boundaries would speak for themselves. You wouldn't have to force change. It would happen as a consequence of your inner alignment. This is why ancient mystics, philosophers, and awakened thinkers always pointed inward. Not because the world doesn't matter, but because the world is you. Reality isn't something you fix, it's something you tune. And the clearer the signal inside, the cleaner the reflection outside. As within, so without. As above, so below. The question isn't what needs to change out there. The real question is, what's it trying to show me in here? You've been taught to see the world in black and white, good or bad, success or failure, love or hate. But life doesn't move in absolutes. It moves in degrees. The fourth Hermetic law, the law of polarity, reveals something most people never realize. Opposites aren't enemies. They're extremes of the same thing. Hot and cold are both temperatures. Light and dark are both forms of light. Fear and courage. The same spectrum. What changes is the degree your position on the line. And the moment you understand this, you unlock one of the most powerful hidden tools in existence, the ability to shift your inner state without fighting it. Most people are stuck not because they're broken, but because they think they have to swing from one end of the spectrum to the other in one dramatic leap. They think peace means eliminating all anger, or that confidence means erasing all doubt. But that's not how polarity works. Polarity is about movement. It's about transmutation. It's about sliding yourself along the spectrum through awareness and choice. When you feel anxious, you don't need to force yourself into joy. You learn to shift toward calm. When you feel stuck in fear, you don't need to fake confidence. You simply begin to move toward courage, one conscious degree at a time. This is emotional alchemy. It's the art of transmuting internal states instead of being ruled by them. But society never taught you how to do this. It taught you to suppress, to numb, to distract, or to explode. And so your emotions rule you, not because they're powerful, but because you never learned their language. Polarity changes that. It shows you that every emotion has its place. Every state has its purpose. The key isn't to kill the negative. It's to understand its place in the cycle and learn how to use it. Anger, when transmuted, becomes boundaries. Fear, when understood, becomes caution. Grief, when honored, becomes wisdom. But if you label everything you feel as either good or bad, you lose access to this power. You get trapped in judgment. You beat yourself up for feeling low instead of recognizing it as a natural part of the rhythm. This is why so many people feel emotionally exhausted. They're fighting themselves all the time, chasing only the highs and fearing the lows. But what if the low wasn't the enemy? What if it was just the other end of the current you haven't yet learned to ride? The law of polarity reminds you that you don't need to stay stuck at one end. You can move not by suppressing what you feel, but by directing it. This is internal jujitsu. When you learn how to pivot emotional energy, when you recognize that even the darkest emotions are still your energy, you stop being afraid of your inner world. You start to use it. You become emotionally sovereign. And that sovereignty means you're no longer at the mercy of circumstances, triggers, or the opinions of others. You decide where you want to be on the spectrum. You decide how to move. People who master polarity aren't emotionless. They're fluent. They don't avoid discomfort. They transmute it. They don't deny pain. They alchemize it. That's power. Not pretending to always be happy, but knowing how to navigate every state without getting hijacked by it. Because when you master your emotional spectrum, you stop reacting like a puppet. You start responding like a creator. The world will always try to push you to extremes: love or hate, fight or freeze, right or wrong. But polarity gives you a third option: mastery. And when you can stand in the middle of the storm, choose your internal position, and shift deliberately toward the state you want to embody, nothing can touch you. The pendulum may swing, but you no longer swing with it. You choose your direction, you shift your charge, you move the energy, and in doing so, you shift reality itself. Nothing in your life stays still. Not your emotions, not your relationships, not your circumstances. Everything moves, everything cycles. This is the law of rhythm. And it's not a poetic metaphor, it's a mechanism. The tides rise and fall. The sun rises, sets and rises again. The seasons turn. The moon waxes and wanes. Your energy expands and contracts. Yet somehow you were conditioned to believe that if something goes down, it's failing. If you feel low, you're broken. If things slow down, you're falling behind. But rhythm isn't failure. It's nature. And mastering rhythm means learning how to ride the waves instead of getting crushed by them. When things are going well, most people forget the rhythm. They assume the high will last forever. They overextend, overpromise, overconsume. Then the natural dip comes. The cycle shifts and they panic. They resist. They think they did something wrong. They try to scramble back to the high by force. And when it doesn't work, they spiral. But the Hermetic truth is this: the swing of the pendulum to the left is equal to the swing to the right. What rises will fall, and what falls will rise. Not because you're cursed, but because that's how energy moves. The key isn't to stop the swing. It's to stop being controlled by it. When you're up, prepare. When you're down, reflect. Every phase has its power. Highs give you momentum. Lows give you wisdom. Highs are for action. Lows are for realignment. But society tells you to hustle through the lows, to numb them to fake energy. You don't have to shame yourself for needing rest. That's not mastery. That's denial. And denial always leads to burnout. People who understand rhythm don't panic when the wave dips. They don't label themselves as lazy, lost, or unworthy when they feel tired or unclear. They know it's part of the cycle. They know a dip isn't the end. It's the reset. They learn to work with the rhythm instead of against it. They rest with intention. They reflect with honesty. They prepare quietly. Then when the wave rises again, they ride it with clarity and force. Not because they forced it, but because they respected the pattern. Rhythm shows up in your thoughts, your moods, your income, your health, your focus. It's not random, it's precise. And when you start to observe your own cycles, your emotional tides, your productive peaks, your natural ebbs, you stop living like a robot and start living like a human being. You stop resisting the lows and start using them. Because every downturn has an instruction, every lull has a message. You're either listening or you're drowning. Think about how you've been taught to measure progress. It's always linear, up and to the right. But real growth moves in spirals, cycles, rhythms. It revisits old wounds with new awareness. It dips so you can anchor deeper. It pauses so you can level up. You don't lose when you rest. You integrate. You don't fall off when you slow down. You prepare. The law of rhythm doesn't mean you'll never feel unstable. It means you'll stop making it mean something's wrong with you. You'll learn to hold your center while the wave moves around you. And that changes everything. Because the moment you stop fearing the dip is the moment you stop losing your power during it. You become predictable to yourself. You start timing your life like a surfer, catching the perfect set. And suddenly you're no longer chasing stability. You're flowing with it.